it's not that it won't happen. It's like when it'll happen. And if that takes 15,000 pivots in different directions for you to be successful, like it will happen. But yeah, what am I most excited about? I think probably I am becoming a new mom. That is the biggest theme in my life right now. And, along with that comes a lot of change. And I think I've done so much work on being comfortable with change that this change is now becoming so welcomed into my life.
How does intuition work for you?
Yeah, so my intuition is very, it's not so, like you said, yours is quite biological. Mine is very, like, sort of mental. It's like, I kind of get this, like, just knowing. And it's like, it can be a little frustrating for people because I can't sometimes explain why I'm going to do something. But I just have this, like, intense knowing that I'm like, this is what I'm doing. I think there was a point in my life where I was feeling really stuck. And that was something that, I pulled on, some of the travel that I'd done and been like, okay, well, how can I change up my life right now? Because I know that like making change is what propels you forward, which helps you to meet new people, which gives you new opportunities.
Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Empowered Self podcast. So my name is John, and I'm here with my good friend, Josie. So we're going to talk a little bit about traveling today and business and a little bit of yoga. And we just have a lot of things in common. So we think it's going to be a really lovely conversation. But what I'll say is Josie is just such an incredible person. We actually met for the first time at a breathwork session that I was hosting. And I saw her there and I'm like, I love your style. I love your vibe. I just want to be friends with this person. So we have became friends since then. But truly, she is just a wonderful person with a really big heart and a lot of wisdom to share. So it's a real honor and privilege for me to get to be here with you. So with that being said, let's get into it. And a question that I like to ask first, and some other podcasters like to ask this first as well. But what is something that you're most excited about in your life right now?
Oh gosh, there's so much to be excited about. First of all, thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm super excited and ditto everything that you said. It was just perfectly aligned that we met at that time. So, but yeah, what am I most excited about? I think probably I am becoming a new mom. That is the biggest theme in my life right now. And, along with that comes a lot of change. And I think I've done so much work on being comfortable with change that this change is now becoming so welcomed into my life. And I'm just more excited than nervous or any other emotion. It's just, yeah, it's going to be the biggest change I've ever had in my life. So
Yeah.
that is what I'm most excited about.
Yeah. I mean, what a big topic, right? And thank you for sharing that. And really just congratulations, like it really, some people would say that it takes like many different ancestors agreeing for the kid to come in for the conception to actually take place, right? So the fact that you are somebody who's stepping into this new role of responsibility and leadership and saying yes to like bringing the gift of that new soul into reality is huge, so really kudos to you and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It's really, as you said, it's the perfect timing in my life. I'm so grateful to be like where I'm at in my life, to be having this child. I feel like all the experiences and life that I've already lived has kind of perfectly set me up for this moment. And yeah, it was happened a little bit faster than I expected, but clearly my baby was just like right there. It's like, I'm coming. So
Yeah, your manifestations are on point, right? As soon as things align, it comes through. So yeah. And so, is this something that you were sort of looking forward to? Like, have you always wanted to be a parent, or was it a more of like a sort of newfound desire that this came into your life?
yeah, I've kind of been through some like ups and downs with that. I think I always knew that I would be a mom at some point. But it depended, like, I've been in several sort of longer term relationships, and it really depended like who I was with. And until the person that I'm with now, until I met him, I was sort of very much like indifferent about it. I was just kind of like, if I have kids, great. If not, whatever. But then I met him, and I was also going through a lot of other changes in my life. But there was a very constant like, I want kids now, but I have all of these other things to do before or think that I have all of these other things that I need to do before I get there. So yeah, definitely in the last few years, it has really become a lot more at the forefront of my life, knowing that I would be a great mom, and I do have that confidence there. So, if I'd had become a mother when I was a lot younger, obviously it would have been meant to be. But I'm just super grateful that it's happening right now, and I definitely feel right for it.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, what's so cool too is like we are at this really transformative time in society right now, and in a lot of ways, kids are the light of the world, right? So like to bring in more light and more wisdom and more gifts of your kid to the world is like it's incredible. It's what the world needs in a lot of ways. And there's this movement, this like sort of I don't want to call it a dogmatic belief, but there's like this perception that things are going so bad. A lot of people don't want to bring kids into the world right now. And I think in some way that's actually like preventing us from getting the love of the children that would help us in many ways. So trying to reframe that belief and see it as no, it's actually an honor and it's a really positive thing and it's beautiful. And it takes a lot of self-sacrifice to say yes to something like that. So only good people are sort of willing to do it in some ways. So yeah, kudos to you. Very, very exciting. I can't wait to, meet your young one and get to be a part of them growing up and stuff like that. So, and I think it's cool because it seems like you have done a great job of settling down and not only applying all the wisdom that you've gained over your travels to the life you live now, but you're creating a community around you of people you can support that kid so that they are sort of raised in the right way, even with all the difficulties around you. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's like a really big piece of like why I feel ready, I think, is because, I've taken a lot of time to really learn about myself and spent a lot of time alone in the last, not the past year, but a few years prior to that, and just really figured out who do I want in my life. And yeah, that's really not really so much with the intention of being like, who do I want in my children's lives? But I think it was in the background there, and coming a little bit into that intention, like indirectly, I guess, preparing me for bringing another soul into the world that, as you said, is going to bring that light that we need these days.
Yeah, amazing. And my whole motto is like heal yourself first, right? And it's like the more healing you do, the more you're able to translate or transfer good things from you into the next generation, right? So well, I'm sure we'll get back to your kid a little bit in the future, but you're also a big yogi, right? And yoga is a real discipline of working on yourself and of understanding your relationship to the people around you and the environments you're in and learning to navigate that better to serve the world from a more enlightened place. So what role has yoga played in your life and helping you? Like, basically, what has yoga done for you at all?
Oh, wow. Yoga has completely changed my life, to put it shortly. But yeah, I guess I started my yoga journey like maybe 10 years ago, more than just over 10 years ago now. And it wasn't something that I grew up around. It was just something that found that I needed in my life when I, was in a corporate career and working a 9 to 5. And it was just, I'd been thrown into that right out of university, as most of us do. And you just needed some sort of little reprieve. And it just started with one yoga teacher in particular, actually here in London, Ontario, that did like a foundations yoga like series at I think it was Mofati Gym that I was at the time. And he completely just like got me hooked. And I think I left his first class just being like, I need this in my life, because I don't know how I'll like survive in my 9 to 5 without finding this like place where I can go that my mind just is able to completely forget about the outside world. And then, yeah, since then, it's just been, I had a little on and off practice for a while. And then after, I think it was 6 or 7 years of practicing, I decided to go do my yoga teacher training. And that was the real like turning point of, you go and do your immersive 200-hour and you just come out of that a completely different person, and with so much more like faith in like yourself and God or universe or whatever you want to call it. And just, I really found that knowing of like, I can do whatever I want with this life, and it would be a disservice to not do that, I was put on this earth to do something. And that yoga training, that time like away from the world, really gave me that clarity. So yeah, since then my life is completely like flipped upside down. I came out of that training, quit my 9 to 5, sold the house that I had bought, and decided to go back to school for art. That didn't quite work out, but well, it worked out, but it led me to like where I am now. So yeah, I guess in a nutshell, that is what yoga has done for me.
Yeah, and what a tremendous gift. You're a tremendous gift, right? To step into your own power like that. And I guess a couple of things I could say is like, what is your favorite part about yoga? And like, why do you think that yoga was able to allow you to have these realizations?
Oh, I think there's the yoga training I did in particular was very holistic. Like we looked at all of the limbs of yoga. It wasn't just asanas. It was like, all of we studied the Bhagavad Gita. We did a lot of like philosophy. We did the karma yoga. We did, like all of the aspects of yoga. And I think that is been really valuable to me in seeing the big picture of things. Life isn't just like these little segments that are separate from each other. It's like how everything all integrates together. And I think that is what yoga has given me, like more faith in like, some points in life we are working on our asanas, and sometimes we're working on our like philosophy, and sometimes we're actually doing action with our like karma yoga, things like that. And you have to, have a balance of all of those things. And we don't need to be so like do all the time. We need to sometimes sit in stillness to be able to like have those epiphanies of like what we're going to do next. So
And yoga is all about like union, right? And so I think like when we focus too strongly on one category of our life, we're neglecting to like water the seeds of all the other parts of our life.
Totally.
Right. But when you do understand that you're a multidimensional being that has many different capacities, that's when you do step into your full power. And especially too, when all of these components start to work together, as opposed to like when I had first started my meditation journey, I realized that I had all sorts of desires that were fighting each other, right? Like one wants to sit still, one wants to go and grab a donut. And how do you navigate you fighting yourself? But eventually you start to like bring all of the pieces of yourself together and start like pointing it in similar directions and have all pieces working together. And what a better way to function in life, to work with yourself as opposed to working against yourself. So also too, now you're a yoga teacher, and that's a whole different sort of step in this journey. And how has your relationship to yoga changed since you've started teaching and sharing the gift of yoga with others?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely brought me more, I guess, confidence in my learnings of yoga, sort of being in this space where people are now looking to you to, I guess, just share your own story with yoga. Because I kind of look at that when I'm teaching a class. I'm just like sharing what I've learned, passing it on, and, not too much pressure for anyone to like resonate with everything that I'm saying, but just again, because I have that connection now, it's like having that faith that like, what I am sharing with other yoga students is exactly what needs to be shared. Has given me a lot of confidence, like, in my own practice, that it's really integrated into my life. But also still that there's lots to learn, right? It's like a never ending journey. So I think it's giving me more confidence in knowing that like yoga is a really big part of my life, but also more motivation to keep on that path and keep learning and keep growing and connecting with more people in that space as well. So
Yeah, and I think they say too, in your own process of learning, like there's this some model of description of this where they say that like you can only get to like 70 or 80% of knowledge of something, and to get from 80 to like 100, you have to start teaching. Because it's through the process of teaching that you actually learn more yourself about what it is you're actually teaching. Because like it's one thing to apply it in your life, but what about somebody who's a completely different person and trying to get them to apply it to their life? Like they might see it from a completely different perspective. But so yeah, it's really important on our journey as to continue to study this, to step into a role of teaching so that we can learn these things better ourselves. But I also think too, a lot of people would be incredible yoga teachers and they'd just be amazing at it. But a lot of people have resistance to getting up there and facilitating and holding space for people. And there's so many different reasons for that. But I think like understanding that the only thing you can share is what you've learned and how you've been taught it and what you are. So there isn't a lot of pressure to be something you're not. You just need to like acknowledge and accept that the way that you share it is exactly how it's supposed to be shared, and it's perfect just the way it is, you know? So
Yeah, I love the way you put that. It's because I think that is what stops a lot of people. They're just like worried about sharing the right thing or being perfect or like teaching the like asanas perfectly or whatever. But it's like, no, it's like exactly what is meant to come through you as a teacher is what the world needs or what your class needs or what one student needs at that time, you know? Like, and if you change have one person in your class have a little aha moment, like that's what I was there for today.
yeah,
You know?
that's a true
So,
gift for somebody. For some people, if you're sometimes stuck in a bubble perception and somebody comes in, gives you a piece of wisdom that gives you a new perspective and that changes the course of action that they take, that's like a miracle in some way that you're helping that person with that, you know? So super cool.
totally. And like that's happened to me so many times, right? All of the teachers that I've had have just given me these little pieces of all of the things that I've needed to hear to get to where I am today. And I'm sure you've experienced the same thing too. So
Yeah.
it's,
And I think part of why that happens is because of the intention behind a lot of teachers to allow that to happen, right? Because in yoga, there truly is the aspect of surrender where it says it's not always about us, but it sometimes is about who we're in union with and the beings who are the energy that's working through us. So it's like if you set the intention to be of service and not worry from an egotistical perspective of how what you're doing is perceived, then yeah, it makes it almost impossible not to deliver the message that needs to be shared at that time.
yeah,
Right? So,
exactly.
yeah. And I think another thing that's cool about yoga and meditation is that if yoga was just an independent thing, it wouldn't be as special as it is when there's a yoga teacher sharing it. Because it's like yoga makes the person's gifts better. The person actually makes yoga better too, right? So it's like you have to remember that your own unique, special essence is actually what makes your yoga classes better than anybody else's. Not better, but unique and different, right? So yeah, it's cool. We actually make the practices better by entering into them, which is awesome.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And it's like, I get so much, you chat with students after classes and everyone's just like, oh, your class was so great. And I always like, of course, I'm just like, that's great. I'm so happy you resonated. And, kind of share a story from like when I was like in a yoga class the other day and heard this from another teacher. And it's just like, yeah, we're all just kind of passing around our knowledge and wisdom and energy and yeah, the community piece is so important because I know there's some yoga philosophies that are like, oh no, you're quite like independent and like just do your own practice in your own space, and it's, I mean, there's something for everyone, right? Yoga has something for everyone, and if that sort of practice resonates with you, and that's great, you still have to learn it from someone else.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. You know, you can tell that you have been a yogi for 10 years and how long this has been in your life. And that's awesome, you know? So, yeah, I also want to get a little bit into your story and, so people can learn more about you. But yeah, is there any like sort of specific childhood memories that you can remember that set you on a different trajectory or that maybe were significant in your upbringing and determining who you are today?
Yeah, I mean, a big thing that really happened in my life, I was 12 years old and my parents decided to move from England to Canada. So
We're happy to have you.
yeah, I'm super happy to be here. Canada is my home. I love England. I miss my family there, but I don't think I would go back and live there at any point. But yeah, no, Canada is like that move was a really significant thing in my life. And I think for, my teenage years, I kind of played it down a lot. I was like, oh, it's not a big deal, whatever. But, as I sort of became more self-aware, I started to realize, that's a big move. That's a big uprooting in your like pivotal growing up years, and your hormones and all of these things are just all out of whack. And, it really taught me that I can be pulled out of some situation into something completely unknown and survive. And I think that, experience really was like the thing that kind of set me on this, like, okay, let's just go and do something unknown and whatever happens, we'll be fine. So
Makes as hard as that was for you, I'm sure, as a little kid entering into this deeply unsafe experience and coming out the other side. Traveling is a really difficult thing for a lot of people, and so many, like, I think there's this statistic that's like only 25% of North Americans have passports, and only like 10% of them leave the country every year or something like that. Like it's a really insane number, like how few of us actually travel. And I think part of, at least for me, when I started traveling, was this fear of the unknown, right? Like, I'm going to go to Thailand and I'm going to get attacked by monkeys or get stabbed in the street, or, it's a scary world out there. But the fact that you were sort of forced into this experience when you were young, I think actually prepared you for doing this when you're older. And what a gift I'm sure that has been for you in some ways. So yeah, I know you've traveled a lot. Do you want to talk a little bit about your traveling experiences?
Yeah.
What you've gained from them?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I started traveling. I was like out of university. I did a couple trips with friends and things like that, and fairly in the comfort zone, wasn't doing anything too much by myself. And then, I was just starting to get into yoga actually. And then I decided to go on my first solo trip. I had gone to a conference for work and then decided to stay on by myself. This was out east in Newfoundland.
Right.
And I decided to go to like a raw food diet, yoga, meditation retreat just for the weekend. And that was, again, a really I kind of forced myself into this really uncomfortable, unknown space. But I had some massive epiphanies there. And I think it was because I'd taken the time to go by myself. I didn't know anyone. I spent a lot of time alone, did lots of hiking on that solo trip as well. And then, rented a car and met some incredible people. Newfoundland is one of my favorite places in the world, I think.
Yeah, when you're thinking of Newfoundland, you don't think of raw yoga vegan food, right? Crazy, but
It can be found. So yeah, that was my first solo trip, intro to it was still in the comfort zone, still in Canada, but it was it just kind of gave me this confidence that I'm oh, I can do this, all those things on my own. And then I came back from that trip, and it was I was with someone at the time, and we were ready to part ways. So that trip kind of gave me the confidence to go on that path by myself. And then after that, it was every time I went on a work conference, I would extend my trip, do a little solo trip by myself. I was in Banff for a while, and then a couple other places. And and then my first overseas solo trip, what did I do there? I think it was to Ireland, and then I went to England to see my family, and then moved to Scotland, and that was a big trip. It was 6 weeks or something like that. And again, that gave me a lot more confidence. But again, still you just kind of keep going a little bit more out of your comfort zone. Ireland and Scotland still speak English, and have some familiarity for me, but just again a little bit longer, doing a lot more moving around to different places. And then then I came back from that, again flipped my life upside down. That's when I had basically quit my 9 to 5 and was going back to school for art. And then I found what I'm doing now, which is my online business stuff, and I got so much confidence from that, again jumping into the unknown, and then decided to go travel, be a digital nomad for 9 months. So I first off went to, oh my gosh, where did I start? Guatemala. So we did a yoga retreat there with some people that I knew, but still, traveled there by myself and got some more confidence there. Then I went down to Costa Rica for 2.5 months and lived. That was great.
oh, yeah. I was recently been there myself. Costa Rica especially.
But yeah, just the way of experiencing the way of life there was just so I knew people had told me it was super chill, but I'm just yeah, this is people need to just calm down. So
For sure.
I do strive to bring that back with me and keep a hold of that while I'm here, because our society just it needs chill. So yeah, and then after that, I came back to Ontario for Christmas, just for a couple weeks, and Then I went on a big road trip through the States with one of my friends, and that was awesome too. Mentioned Mardi Gras. Talking about that with someone today. It was just, good times. And then, what did I do next? I came back and then I went on to Mexico, Tulum. That was an interesting one. I didn't love Tulum, actually. It was a really tough place for me to be. I had, just sort of ended some relationships here that, I was really in a grieving spot there. But, having that solo time in a place where I didn't know just kind of gave me that space to, process that, but also be stimulated enough, like figuring out new things. It was just kind of a really good balance. It was really hard, but it was very much needed. And then, by the time I was there for a month, did a bunch of healing, and then went down to Brazil and did like a surf retreat. And so that was for about 10 days there. And then then I came back to Canada for a bit, and then to Japan for a month, which was, again, a completely different. I didn't really go into it with too many expectations, but really exceeded my expectations and gave such a different perspective on like another culture. Like Japan is just very different, but also a very like comfortable place to travel, at least for me. Anyways, that was my personal experience. I was very happy to be in Japan, even though I didn't speak any Japanese, and it was just a very wonderful trip. Surprise, a good surprise.
Yeah.
So so I bought all of these little bits of culture and have brought it all back, and now I think I'm still trying to integrate all of those learnings, right? Will be a process, but
I can only imagine, right? And it's like one little Newfoundland trip leads you to 20 different countries and 20 different experiences. I think really what I love about traveling myself is like it really does feel like a rite of passage. And if like there's no guarantee that somebody is going to develop confidence in their life. So in order to do so, you need to enter into containers or environments that will allow confidence to flourish. And often that's through difficulty, right? So traveling is one of those things that like it's unknown, it's scary. But if you say yes to it, then you get the reward of confidence. And look at what confidence can do for you in your life. It can take you literally all over the world. I'm sure you met so many amazing people, and I'm sure you explored many different things. Don't think that traveling, for the people at home listening, don't think that traveling is just like going off to see cool places. A lot of the times it can actually like forge your character and forge your personal development in a way that you couldn't get at home. Because I think the other thing that's cool about traveling is that it allows us to be different versions of ourselves in every place that we go to. And so often we're locked in being one version of ourselves. We only see, I'm this John Willems from London, Ontario. But have you ever explored being the John in Tulum or like being it's on Costa Rica? And so when you go to these places, you get to be a whole different version of yourself, which shows you that this bubble of perception that you have isn't the only version of yourself that you can be. And it does open that door of possibility, like you said earlier, where you can be anybody you want to be, right? So yoga can help you with that, traveling can help you with that. And what an amazing thing, right? I think this is the benefit of the society we live in, is this possibility of being fucking endless, infinite possibility, being business owners, traveling the world, getting to do as we like. So thank you for sharing that travel story. And I think our stories are very similar, because at least for me, I started with I went with a friend to Amsterdam and Iceland for 5 days. And that was our first ever trip. And I was too scared to travel alone at that time. So going with a friend made it possible. Came back from there. Then I gained the confidence to go to Thailand, and I solo backpacked for a month around Thailand. That got me so confident. I went back to Thailand to live as a Buddhist monk for 6 months, right? That got me confident. I went to Sweden and went to Costa Rica. And it's like, it's so monumental what these things can do for you if you say yes to it. And understand that, yes, there are going to be barriers like finances and stuff like that. But where there's a will, there's a way, and it doesn't always have to look the same way. I'm sure you can relate to this, but there is a way to make travel affordable and basically overcome any resistance that you might have to doing it. Like, okay, so if you don't have the finances to go to Thailand or something, go camping in a place you've never camped in your local area, right? Like go walk down a different path you've never been to before. And anytime you expose yourself to new things, you're developing yourself as a person. So
absolutely. Yeah, I can absolutely relate to that. I think there was a point in my life where I was feeling really stuck. And that was something that, I pulled on, some of the travel that I'd done and been like, okay, well, how can I change up my life right now? Because I know that like making change is what propels you forward. Which helps you to meet new people, which gives you new opportunities. So it's like, yeah, even just like going to a different coffee shop or like taking a different route to work is like, yeah, it's all these like creative ways to sort of bring travel to your life right now. And then that opens up like new pathways in your brain to be like, oh, well, actually, I could make this trip work in this way if I, switched around some things. It's like it changes your brain in a way that like can't be unchanged. And then you can apply that anywhere in your life.
Yeah.
Like changing your career. Like for some people, that's seems impossible right now. But, if you start making small changes in your life and then you start traveling and then that's a little bit bigger of a change. And then eventually you get to where I am. I like completely like have gone off the other way from what I was doing before. And it's all because that we put ourselves into these uncomfortable positions carefully, slowly. It's want, or you can just throw yourself right in. It's fine. It depends on your.
And some people would need that too, right? Because some people will be so stuck in their bubble that like you actually need a push to get through that sometimes, right? So yeah, I'm totally relate. Okay, so this journey has led you all sorts of different places to explore all sorts of different things, and one of the destinations you've been able to come to is becoming your own business owner and becoming self-sufficient in your way of generating income and stuff like that. So do you want to talk about your relationship to business a little bit? And
Yeah, okay. It's still like a fairly new thing for me. And to be honest, I haven't done a lot of talking about it like in person. I have an online business and it's social media based. So it's like very like I've gained a lot of confidence in my voice and the words that I want to say, but it's still very like new and it's like, ooh, a little bit. It's still that exciting. Like I'm still in the change right now.
Yeah.
So it's
experimentation phase.
exactly. But basically all of my travels have given me the confidence to like actually step into this space. So it's all intertwined for sure. But yeah, in terms of my business journey, I kind of started it like I had left my 9 to 5 and was trying to, pursue being a visual artist. So I'd gone back to school for that and realized that, our, university system is fantastic. I am very happy that I have my degree, but, going that route again would just kind of lead me back to that 9 to 5 life, back to working like for someone else. And I knew in my heart that like I needed to have some autonomy around what I was doing. So kind of business came into my life, like having my own business came into my life at the perfect time where I was just like, I had that aha moment of like, I need to figure out how to do this on my own. And then, once you put that out there into the universe, like things like start coming across your path, right? And I found someone, her name is Natalie, that she does the same thing that I do right now. So she kind of was saying, I'm mentoring people to be able to step into the online entrepreneurship space. And I really resonated with her. She was, had a lot of skill. She still does have one skill. She's like just getting better and better. And I'm just kind of, not copying her, but like following in her footsteps because we, again, have so much in common. We just, clicked instantly, basically. And that's kind of where I'm at in my journey right now, just continuously learning, applying what I'm learning. And then, I'm starting to see the fruits of my labor. But I think the hardest thing with, making that switch for me, has been really becoming responsible for myself. So when I first got into it, I was like, oh, this looks super easy. Like, I'll just like, make some posts on social media, set up my ads and all this kind of stuff. But it's, really having that discipline for yourself and being responsible for yourself. And that actually took a really long time for me to develop. Like moving from that sort of employee mindset to entrepreneur mindset. That's been like the biggest hurdle, I guess, in business for me. So I feel like I'm finally getting there. I'm, being, disciplined and realizing that, when you're an entrepreneur, it's like a lot of work up front before you start to see like the benefits and the reward and the, you know, profits from what you're doing. So, but that's also been the most amazing thing too, because it's like, oh wow, like if I work this hard, well, not that I have to work hard to like be successful. You do have to work hard, but it's like this balance of like working hard, but also allowing things to come to you, but doing that consistently and then believing in yourself. It's like, that is one of, yeah, that's the biggest thing that I've got from this entrepreneurship journey so far, I would say. So
For sure. Yeah. And, you know, I think it is difficult because I think a lot of the programming of our society is like expecting quick results. And even as an employee, it's like you put in a certain amount of hours and you get a certain amount of money for it in return. But when it comes to like entrepreneurship, it is a different relationship to exchange. And it is one that has to be built over time and established.
Yeah.
And I think that's hard for a lot of people, is to be patient as this process unfolds. Yeah, I think the other thing too is like, it is hard work, but at least for me, when it comes to building my business, it doesn't feel like as much work because I'm doing work that I actually enjoy, or like I'm building the things that I actually care about. Whereas a lot of times for me, when I was in a 9-to-5 job, it felt like I'm working for somebody else's goals, and I'm not really appreciated in the way that I know my true value. And I don't think I ever will be. Even if I climb this ladder, I don't think it's taking me to anywhere I want to go. So for me, the option was like entrepreneurship. Like, this is what will leave me most fulfilled. And although it comes with many difficulties, there's a great guy named Andrew Huberman. You probably heard of him, right? But he says on his entrepreneurial journey that like his life has been easier than other people, but it's also been harder than other people at the same time. And I think that's sort of the sacrifice you make to get the benefits of being this successful business entrepreneur, if that happens, because there's a risk that won't as well. But yeah, for me, it was like, I'm taking that risk every time, you know, like it's just, I'm suited for this type of thing and it makes me feel most fulfilled. And I'm sure you can relate to that as well.
yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not that it won't happen. It's like when it'll happen. And if that takes 15,000 pivots in different directions for you to be successful, like it will happen. It's just, you know, you've got to keep that tenacity, I guess. And yeah, some people aren't kind of ready to step into that space, and that's totally fine. Like, you know, not everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur. But yeah, I have cultivated this belief that, you know, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And you're never going to fail unless you give up, right? So it's like, yeah, even if like what I'm doing right now it's not the be all end all. Like like entrepreneurs are always like finding different like little caveats and like different ways to make money. Like you've got so many like different little things on the go. It's like, I'm so grateful to know you because you've inspired me to kind of like branch out a little, you know, like my yoga now is different source of income than my online business. And I just know that there's going to be more little like things that I'm going to do in my life when I feel called to do them. But finding also that balance of like staying focused on one thing until you know that it's not the thing to focus on anymore. Yeah. And that can be hard for people if you're not super connected to yourself or your intuition or whatever you call it. So that can be confusing, right? If you're not so certain like what you want, you can try all these different things and just keep jumping from thing to thing. But if you don't know yourself, you're never going to know what's aligned or not. So that's been also another interesting like thing, because when I started my online business, it was definitely a leap of faith. But I did have this like strong knowing that it felt right, but I couldn't explain to myself even like why it felt right. I was just like, I know I need to do this. Like I just feel so called to it. But it's like, why does this make sense? I don't know, but I just have to trust it. And here we are. It's like changed my life. So
yeah, amazing. And I think that's part of the learning too, right? And you know, your story I really love because it's such a great example of how self-development actually can make your life better, right? And you know, like we're talking about all these different traits like discipline and persistence and tenacity and confidence. And these things are things that have to be developed over time. And unless you do things that cause you to develop them, again, it might not take place. But you are perfect example of somebody who has made these changes, who has developed these things, and is now living a life filled with more fulfillment than maybe what you would have been able to achieve otherwise. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing and being willing to share your story.
Yeah, clear. Yeah, and thank you so much for, it's so important to meet people in our lives that can, like bring out all of these learnings. And I think we definitely do that for each other. And it's just amazing, like when you start to come into this space of, believing in yourself and trusting that everything is on the right path. You just meet so many people like that will do that for you as well. So it's
Yeah. And that's the big key thing I think about resonance, right? It's like when you put yourself in these unfamiliar environments, you change your vibration and you bring in more empowerment to yourself, and then that will attract more empowerment to you, right? So it's like, yeah, you get to choose with your own free will what life you want to live, and you can either accept the reality you've been given or choose to become somebody who is more capable and can serve the world more, and you will be supported on that journey, because at the end of the day, this is what I think society and the consciousness of like the earth and the universe wants, is us to come together, is us to become more fulfilled and enjoy our time here and express more learning and express more parts of ourselves that otherwise wouldn't be expressed. So yeah, it's an amazing time to be alive, right? It's very exciting where we're going and what we're doing and what's going to happen next. So yeah. Is there anything else that, maybe you want to talk about or get into? What do you
in terms of like business or just like, I don't know. Your story. You've talked a lot about your story on your podcast, but
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's always more that you
There's
can
always
get into.
noise to get into. Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting. Like you've done so many different things. Like I guess I would love to know like your intuition. Like how do you know something is like right for you?
Yeah. Well, so for me, it's very much like I am a manifesting generator. So people have different opinions on human design and stuff like that, and not fully committed to believing that it's entirely true.
Okay.
But in applying some of its principles to my own life, it has been really helpful. And I think like I already had a tendency to do this, but human design just put words to what was actually taking place in my life. But I am a responder. So basically what'll happen is I try and sit in awareness, and then I'll get opportunities be presented to me. Like, okay, you can act on this or you can do that. And I'll have thoughts that are basically like, okay, now it's time to go up and go grab a drink, or now it's time to do this. And there will be many instances where these suggestions come into my life, but I won't have the desire, this like pull, this drive, this response within me that says, okay, now's the time to do this in this way. So I basically sit there and I wait patiently until the thing that comes to me is enough of a attraction on my behalf that says I'm doing this. And when I say yes to my intuition in that way, pulling me in specific directions, the desire that I have for that thing to take place is so strong that I never regret where it takes me. Right? So intuition for me is about basically waiting for opportunities to respond, listening to my own biological response to what's happening around me, and trusting in that internal biological wisdom to take me where I'm supposed to be taken, knowing that my soul is the one guiding this force that's pulling me around. So it really has been a lot of unlearning of my rational mind, because your mind can easily say this would be best for this reason, I should do this, but in reality, it's like the mind can't possibly predict what's actually going to happen.
Yeah.
But there are forces in the universe that have a better understanding of the undercurrents that basically cause things to take place more than our mind has. So you can tap into that, listen to that, and be guided. And oh my God, listening to my intuition has been like the most fulfilling thing ever. And truly, it has led me to my dream life.
Yeah.
And it's led me to places that I never would have thought I would ever have gone to. But yeah, it's funny how amazing it can be if you do learn how to listen to it. And I think what's important to understand is that each person will have a different form of internal knowing. And so you have to learn like your own cues, your own mechanisms, and how they work. And we talked earlier about like how, I have many different sources of income in my business. like different things that I'm passionate about, and I bring abundance into my life through that. But some people will be the ones who commit to one thing and they'll succeed in doing that, right? And I know friends who can sit there and study medical books for 8 hours a day. I could never do that, right? That's not my system. That's not how I function. So it is important to learn how your system functions, and then when you understand it, you can use your system in the best way possible. And learning to listen to intuition, I think, is one of the best ways to listen to your system. So yeah, how does intuition work for you?
Yeah, that's fascinating. I haven't quite heard you put it like that. I know we talked about it before, but yeah, so my intuition is very, it's not so, like you said, yours is quite biological. Mine is very like sort of mental. It's like, I kind of get this like just knowing, and it's like, it can be a little frustrating for people because I can't sometimes explain why I'm really gonna do something, but I just have this like intense knowing that I'm like, this is what I'm doing. And obviously that's a little bit scary if you don't trust yourself, you don't have faith in the universe, and you don't have sort of an understanding of like external energies and like how all of that stuff works. But the more that like yoga has led me down that path, and just over time taking these like intense knowings and following them just gives me more confidence to keep pursuing that. So in a general sense, that's how my intuition works. But you mentioned human design. So I'm a projector, and that means the way that I take opportunities is to like wait for an invitation. So when I'm feeling very aligned and I kind of listen to my intuition and knowing, it's like I can put myself in situations that feel really good, and then the opportunities kind of sort of come to me. So I'll, have a good feeling about meeting with someone. So like the day that we met, I was like, I have to go to this. Like it was so last minute, but I was like, I need to go there. And then look how many kind of invitations have come like through us to like, work together and share our stories. And it's just been feels really aligned, right? So that's kind of my experience with intuition, and like so far it's leading me down a very good path. And I feel really aligned. And then there's times where it's like, as you said, you sort of get really logical about it and take ideas from other people, and people saying, oh, you should do this and you should do that, but it's just it doesn't really work out that way. I mean, you can take their ideas and like let it sit and think about it, and if it does feel aligned, then sure, go for it. But yeah, it's really listening to your inner self, and knowing the way that your intuition comes through you is a pretty life-changing thing. And human design has helped me with that as well. But I'm sort of in a similar boat where I'm like, there's so many a couple different ways to calculate it. There's like, like tropical astrology and sidereal astrology, and they're a little bit different based on how you calculate it. And it's like, I kind of have like let's take this and take that and see what resonates and leave the rest sort of attitude to it.
Yeah.
It has helped. Yeah.
I'm the same way, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. And, that's all we can do at the end of the day. So why do you think that society has had such a difficult time adopting this intuition form of guidance and really accepted the reality of it being a thing, Why do you think it's hard for people to listen to their intuition? What do you think is the biggest barrier people face when trying to do so?
Ooh, I mean, we've become such an external like community, right? Like we have so much, we have an amazing ability to like sort of collect all of this data. And I think that's played a big role on it. It's been really helpful. Like I'm just sort of thinking about the medical field and like, collecting all of this information about what contributes to certain diseases. And we sort of, at least in the Western world, can like lost that individual look at people, and we've just like put things into categories. And so people trust that information because it is true, but it's also, we've sort of put so much belief into that we're not listening, like we have out of practice of listening to ourselves as well. And I think, yoga has been so amazing for that. And it's definitely more, it comes from like the eastern part of the world. and they're a lot more like they've kept that tradition, like they've kept that ancient wisdom in their modern day society, and it's come through into their modern day society. But over here in the West, we've sort of shoved that to the side and been like, no, our computers and our like ability to like be logical about everything is trumping, like, that's the god, it's not.
No,
Yeah.
totally. To me, in some of it was crazy because, like, a lot of the things that are external are human-made creations, like these incredible computers and everything. Forgetting that we are the ultimate computer within ourselves. Like the amount of, like neurological processes that take place in the firings of our our circuitry, like millions of neurons fire every single second, right? It's like the most incredible computer that we're living in right now. And we've basically taken that to build things outside of ourselves, but forgetting the amazement that takes place within us. And also too, looking at nature, when you start to get into like the sacred geometry, like the pattern formation of all of nature's creations, like you can see these incredible mathematical equations within the leaf of a tree as to how it was formed. And you can see that the whole thing is just this magistry of creation, so yeah, it's as amazing as we are at creating things, it's also important to remember that there are already some pretty amazing primordial creations around us, which have this amazing wisdom that we can tap into if we study them more. And as opposed to just labeling it as this is a tree, we know all that we know about it, maybe doing a little bit more exploration into what is actually there and can we see it from a different perspective to learn more in a different way.
How? Yeah, I love that. And it's that makes me sort of get onto another like topic of like masculinity and femininity. I think obviously we all have both, and maybe, we've kind of swung a little like over to like a more masculine based society where it's just so much structure and so much, providing, and like, not that any of that is bad, it's fantastic, I love the masculine, but also like bringing a little bit more of that flow back. And that's just been like thousands of years of domino effect, and it's just all about finding that balance. But we also like the world, like that's the nature of nature as well. It kind of like swings back and forth, the tides and the sun and all those things too. So it's like, we've just kind of swung a bit this way, and I'm sure we'll be coming back the other way at some point. And maybe for a second there'll be this like perfect balance point.
Yeah. What is it that you're most excited about moving forward in your life? Like, what is it about the future that you're excited to see? And what is something that you're actively working towards and trying to manifest and bring into society?
Oh, I think as we started, like this baby thing is just the top of my mind. So, that's something in the short term, I guess, that I'm looking forward to experiencing. I think a lot of the people that I'm around these days, a lot of people that have come into my life because I've, healed myself, as you were talking about, just, telling me what an incredible spiritual experience becoming a mother is. And it's like, it's kind of like my intuition here is just like I know that this is just such the right thing to do. I can't necessarily explain it, but it's just something that is just like I'm bringing a whole nother life into this world. And I guess for the rest of my life, that's what I'll see. I'll see this little soul that is going to make ripples in this world in their own way, whether it's big or small, or, well, it doesn't really matter. It will all be relative. But that's short term and long term. That's something that's really, the most exciting for me. And then, in terms of like career and business, it's manifesting that life that I've desired for myself, that's, completely self-sufficient and autonomous and, truly my life. I'm not, answering to anyone else. I'm truly following my own desires and intuition, and hopefully impacting other people along the way. So I know it's a really like big picture. Well, that's kind of how my brain works. I'm very like quite good at big picture. needs an help with the details sometimes. So, but which is it's fine. I know that. So I get help in those areas. But yeah, that's that. Life, as you said, I think before, life is just full of like so many possibilities. And once we have decided that we can create the life that we want, it's kind of unstoppable, right? You just, once it is in there, you can't like unknow it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
And so what advice would you have for people who are looking to step more into their own power and, who are facing this fear of living their life purpose in the way that they want? What advice would you give to them?
Because the first thing that comes to mind is just start small, kind of like back to our conversation around like travel and how you just kind of put yourself a little bit more outside of your comfort zone every time. And it's kind of like a domino effect, right? It's like once you do it once, you get more confidence. And then you do something more, and then you get more confidence. And it's just like often that first starting step is the absolute hardest. And, sometimes you have to put yourself into that first step. For me, I was kind of thrown into that with, that big move when I was 12. But yeah, if you are that person that's like really, really stuck, and yeah, you've like a lot of people just have, they have lived their life and it is, not necessarily super hard, but everyone has their hard, So also, I guess, maybe reflecting back on all of the hard times that you've had and how you've gotten through them. Maybe it was something even small. You're just like, oh, I got him a little like fender bender or something, but I survived, and like things like kept going, and just reminding yourselves of all of those little like times when you did do something hard and we're fine.
Yeah,
Totally. And even better than you were before, probably, actually. More experience. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, it's cool to know that like there's nothing else you can do other than take the baby steps.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're not going to get to where you can't run a marathon without each individual step. So as much as we like to focus on the end goal and the vision and stuff like that, all you can do is take baby steps. Yeah. So if you focus on that and start there, then you'd be amazed at how far you end up and what the amazing places that little step would take you. So
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, just start. Start it. Just do it. So simple, but
well, really, thank you so much for being willing to be here, and really some incredible wisdom has come through. You have a great perspective on things. I really value this conversation, value you for being here, and I can tell you're just going to be the best mom ever. So, yeah, looking forward to that young one, and you bring more of that into reality. So is there any final messages that you want to say, or where can people find you if they want to learn more about learning from you or your business or taking one of your yoga classes?
Yeah, so currently I'm in London, Ontario, teaching yoga at the YMCA and at Elements Hot Yoga. So you can always come see me there. That's nice. And then my Instagram is just Josie Blake. So that's kind of my online business stuff that I do, and you can check that out and take what resonates, leave the rest. And yeah, I guess that's a good way to end it. Take what resonates and leave the rest, right? It's why we do these share our stories, so that people can hear even just like a little nugget that helps them. And you don't have to, everyone's individual and unique, so you don't need to agree with everything that one person says. So
Yeah, perfect little caveat to end it. Okay, thank you everyone so much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure. Josie's going to be coming back again, I can guarantee that, so I'll convince her to come back hopefully. But yeah, it's been a real pleasure. I'll see you all later. Have a good rest of your day. Yep, awesome job.